The conservative conspiracy site WorldNet Daily sometimes hosts insane religious videos. I mean, just as fringe as you can possibly get. So here we have one, which is an instant classic, because it doesn't even try to make sense. They're going to argue that God exists because birds exist.
The Arctic tern is a seabird, sometimes referred to as a sea swallow. There are around 1 million Arctic terns globally, and just like other birds, they migrate. They take a particular course, often varying from year to year to take advantage of prevailing winds. They're known to mate for life and have been known to live for up to 30 years. But unlike other birds, their migration paths are quite extraordinary. You see, terns may begin their journey in Greenland or the Netherlands and pick a path southward down the African coast. But they don't stop there. Some have been tracked to fly as far east as Australia before they turn down and spend a good portion of the year in Antarctica. As they begin their north migration, they will many times trace an entirely different route back to end up in the far northern hemisphere once more. A 56,000-mile annual journey, equaling up to 1.5 million miles in their lifetime. Do birds fly by our wisdom? Or does the remarkable Arctic tern point to a much smarter designer who instilled the inherent knowledge of migration in the fowl of the air? I'm David Reeves. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God.
That was amazing. They didn't even try to present an argument. They're like, here are these birds that fly and they migrate. God. There was no logical connection. Like, I was waiting when they were talking about these birds fly in a different pattern than other birds when they migrate. I was waiting for the guy to say they fly in the shape of a cross, or they made the face of Mary as they flew, and then this shows us that they're communicating something through God. They didn't even try. When you look at the map, it's just like, yeah, they fly here, and then they fly there, and then they fly there, and there you go. That's it. God. End of conversation. We win. But there wasn't a connecting, there was no argument there. No, but see, this is why I love, when you go on these far-right websites, one thing that you see time and time and time again is that they often don't provide any argument, because they don't need an argument preaching to the choir. It's an amazing phenomenon, because what you've done is you've made it so that your duncy readers, they just project whatever things they already feel, whatever prejudices they already have, they just project it on whatever you're writing. So you can make it no logical point whatsoever, nothing there, but they'll read into it. See, the thing is, it used to be that conservatives would provide an argument, and the arguments were wrong. And you can say, okay, well, the argument's wrong for this reason, and this reason. Now there's not even an argument. They were like, God exists because birds. Your move, atheists. Who can watch that who's not already in that bubble and go, well, that makes sense. I'm with them on that one. It's a good point right there. Birds. Right. Nobody. No, you can't convince anybody who's not already in your group when you say stuff like that. It's like what they do with Al Sharpton or President Obama. Look, don't take my word for it. You go look at the articles on right-wing blogs yourself, right? Like, they'll write something about Obama, and they'll just be like, ha! Obama. Radical leftist Obama. And then you're reading, you're like, okay, and then, no, and then, and then, no, and then. Just radical leftist Obama, call him some names, that's it. Article over. They did this to me, I know, I got personally attacked this way. Who was it? Newsmax wrote an article, and some Christian website that's pro-life, anti-abortion wrote an article. They did an article on a segment I did where I literally quote the Bible to explain how the Bible is not so-called pro-life. In fact, there's Abortion is referenced in the Bible multiple times, and they're not against it. In fact, they're for it. God performs abortions at one point when he goes through Samaria and rips the fetuses out of the stomachs of the women. And there's one point where in the Bible they tell you to drink bitter water. A wife is supposed to drink bitter water if the husband thinks the wife cheated on him. And then if the wife miscarries, has an abortion, well then it was the guy she cheated with, his baby, so it's good that there was an abortion. And if she drinks the bitter water and there's no miscarriage or abortion, then okay, it's your baby and everything's hunky-dory. So they say if your wife cheats on you, get an abortion. That's in the Bible. So I mention all this, and they write an article. And in the article, they just basically repeat what I said with the snarky tone, like a tone like I'm obviously wrong. And then Kyle moved to Nehemiah, where in Nehemiah it says, quote, and they would quote the Bible and quote me, what I said. They didn't provide a counter-argument. They just laid out, like, here's what the Bible says, here's what Kyle said. Liberals. You just proved my point. You didn't provide a counter-argument. What are you doing? But that's the point that we've gotten to with the right-wingers. All you have to do is say Al Sharpton or President Obama, and they just go, ha, Al Sharpton, President Obama. Gotcha. Just like this. Birds. Birds. Therefore, God exists. What now, liberal atheists?